Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to stand out. And if you're listening to this, it's not by accident. Because some of you've been feeling misunderstood. You've been wondering, why do I feel so different? Why don't I connect like everybody else? Why do people fall off the moment I start protecting my peace? Here's your answer. You're not ordinary. You're not average. You are a high-value woman. Not because of what you wear, what you own, or how loud you are. Watch because of who you are when nobody's watching. And if you really want to know if you're one of those rare ones, stay with me till the end of this speech. Is the truth I'm about to drop? It will either wake you up or set you apart forever. There's a certain type of woman who moves through life differently. She doesn't need to shout to be seen. She doesn't crave attention. She carries intention. Every step she takes, every decision she makes, it's not for applause, it's for alignment. She's not here for likes. She's not here to trend. She's here to build, to transform, to fulfill something far greater than what the eyes can see. The world will tell you to be loud, to be flashy, to seek validation through numbers, followers, attention. But you don't follow the noise. You hear a different call, one that doesn't come from the outside, but from within. You've probably felt it since you were young, that sense that you didn't quite fit in. You couldn't fake laughs, couldn't force friendships, couldn't water yourself down just to be accepted. And maybe for a while you thought something was wrong with you. Maybe you questioned why you always felt a little out of place. But now you're starting to see it. That different wasn't a flaw. It was your fingerprint, a sign that you were built for something greater than blending in. Purpose doesn't need popularity to survive. It needs clarity. And that's what you've been developing all this time, quietly, consistently. When others were partying, you were planning. When others were comparing, you were creating. When others were begging to be seen, you were preparing to be effective. Let them chase clout. Let them drown in the need to be liked. That's not your lane. You don't follow the crowd because the crowd doesn't know where it's going. And you have a map. You've got vision. And while the world celebrates noise, you celebrate alignment. People won't always understand that. They'll look at your silence and call it arrogance. They'll mistake your boundaries for attitude. They'll try to label you too cold, too distant, too focused. But what they don't realize is that you've stopped needing to explain your calling to people who were never meant to walk in your shoes. There's power in that. There's power in knowing who you are and what you were made for. There's power in not showing up to every argument. Power in choosing peace over drama. Power in declining invites that don't align with your spirit. And most importantly, there's power in being unavailable to anything that tries to distract you from your assignment. You've learned to be intentional with your time, your energy, your presence. You no longer say yes out of guilt or fear of missing out. You've outgrown the phase of shrinking just to be accepted. Now you only sit at tables where your voice is respected. And if that seat doesn't exist, you'll build your own table with your own vision, your own strength, your own pace. Because you're not here to impress. You're here to impact. You understand that purpose sometimes means walking alone. It means being misunderstood. It means having discipline when nobody's watching. It means turning down shortcuts and distractions because you're committed to a bigger picture, a vision that takes more than hustle. It takes patience. It takes integrity. It takes knowing that just because something is available doesn't mean it's for you. That's why you've stopped chasing what's popular. You're not thirsty for attention. You're not desperate to be seen. You're building something real. And real takes time. And you are learning the art of consistency in silence, the power of being underestimated, the strength in not needing to announce every move. Because queens don't scream, they move. And when they move, the world adjusts. You don't need everyone to get it. You don't need everyone to cheer for you. Half the people watching you couldn't walk a mile in your shoes even if they tried. Let them wonder. Let them doubt. Let them talk. While they're busy doing all that, you're building. Quietly, relentlessly, purposefully. You were never meant to be a people pleaser. You were never meant to live on borrowed opinions. That voice in you, the one that told you there's more to life than surface level satisfaction, it was right. It was preparing you, setting you apart. You're finally starting to see it. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're focused. You're becoming. You're walking in something deeper than attention. You're walking in assignment. So don't be discouraged by the silence. Don't be shaken by the loneliness. This path isn't crowded for a reason. It's not meant to be walked by the masses, only by the ones who were called. Not for comfort, but for impact. Thank you. You were called. Now walk like it, because your purpose is waiting, and it's far bigger than being popular. There's a certain quiet strength in you that doesn't need to scream to be heard. You don't walk into a room trying to prove yourself, you just show up. And that alone shifts the atmosphere. People feel something when you enter. They may not even know what it is, but they know the energy has changed. That's because your confidence isn't built on noise. It's built on character. You don't need to be loud, flashy, or aggressive to gain attention. You've mastered the art of presence. A lot of people think respect is about force, about pushing your way through, about raising your voice and showing dominance. But you've learned better. You've learned that true respect is earned in silence, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you set boundaries and honor them, in the way you stay rooted when others are swayed by every opinion and trend. There was a time when you thought you had to over-explain yourself, that you had to justify your boundaries, your standards, your silence. But growth taught you different. Growth taught you that real ones never need to beg to be understood. You stopped explaining your worth to people who were never qualified to recognize it. And in that moment, you elevated. You started commanding respect, not by force, but by your refusal to lower yourself. You don't tolerate disrespect, not because you're bitter, but because you've seen what happens when you allow people to play with your peace. You've seen what it costs to keep the wrong ones close. So now, you don't hesitate to distance yourself, not out of anger, but out of wisdom. The respect you command, it's not just about how others treat you. It's about how you treat yourself. It's in the way you talk to yourself when nobody else is around. It's in the way you show up even when you feel unseen. It's in the way you say no without guilt. In the way you prioritize your peace over pleasing people. You don't seek to control others. You don't manipulate situations to feel powerful. You simply show up fully, authentically. And that authenticity, that's what makes people take notice. That's what makes them think twice before crossing your boundaries. Not because you threaten them, but because they know you don't play when it comes to your values. What's powerful is that you don't need to announce your standards. They're felt. People know they can't approach you any kind of way. They know they can't bring chaos to your space and expect to stay. They know that with you, there are levels, there are limits, there is self-respect, and that changes the game. You've also stopped chasing people who didn't see your worth. That's a major shift. There was a time when you would have tolerated behavior that made you shrink. You would have stayed silent just to keep the peace. But now, your silence speaks volumes. Now, you remove access, not out of pettiness, but out of power. The people who matter, they see it, they respect it. And those who don't, they fall off. Because respect isn't something you can fake for long. It's not something that can be forced. It's drawn in by consistency, by self-awareness, by truth. You've become a mirror. People either rise to meet your energy or they exit your life because they're not ready to level up. And that's okay. You've made peace with not being everyone's favorite. You don't want popularity. You want purpose. You don't want clout. You want connection. You don't want surface level relationships. You want ones rooted in real respect. And here's what separates you from the rest. You respect others even when they don't deserve it. But the moment they violate your boundaries more than once, you step back. You don't curse them out. You don't create drama. You just go silent. You reposition. Because your energy is too sacred to be wasted on teaching people how to treat you. You've learned that respect is a reflection. How people treat you reflects how they feel about themselves. But how you respond, that reflects how you feel about you. And you've reached a point in your life where you don't let disrespect slide under the rug anymore. You address it with grace or with distance, but you never ignore it. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. Clear about who you are, clear about what you will and will not allow, clear about the level of access people must earn to stay close to you. So no, you don't demand respect. You live in a way that commands it. Through your discipline, through your kindness that has limits, through your wisdom that doesn't boast, through your strength that doesn't flex. You walk in rooms like you belong, not because of arrogance, but because you do belong. You carry yourself like someone who's been through fire and came out gold. And that energy, it's magnetic. You've mastered the art of quiet power, and that's what separates you. Because anyone can demand attention, but not everyone can walk in such deep self-respect that it forces the world to adjust. And that's exactly what you've done. There's a shift that happens in a woman's life when she finally realizes she's the prize. When she stops chasing people and starts choosing herself. When she no longer settles for crumbs, distractions, or half-hearted efforts, because she's tasted the fullness of self-worth, and anything less than real doesn't sit right with her spirit anymore. That's the shift that set you apart. That's the moment you became untouchable, not because you put up walls, but because you raised your stand. A woman who truly understands her value doesn't beg to be chosen. She doesn't manipulate her way into someone's heart or beg someone to stay. She knows that love that has to be convinced is love that's not real. She's done with temporary fixes. She's done with potential. She's done with being almost enough. She wants truth, she wants depth, and she knows that means waiting, walking away, or even standing alone if necessary. You've probably been there. You gave your all to people who only saw your value when it was convenient. You poured out love, time, energy, and loyalty, only to be taken for granted. And for a while, you blamed yourself. You thought maybe if you were more, they would have stayed. But now you know better. Now you understand it was never about you being too much. It was about them not being enough to match your depth. That's when everything changed. That's when you stopped begging and started being whole, being healed, being grounded, being love, not waiting for someone to give it to you, but living as someone who already has it inside. You love yourself so deeply now that you no longer accept anything that feels like confusion, anxiety, or inconsistency. You've grown past games, grown past hot and cold energy, grown past the idea that your worth depends on someone else's ability to see it, because you finally realize your value doesn't decrease based on someone else's inability to recognize it. That's their limitation, not your reflection. You love without losing yourself. You give without emptying your soul. You show up fully, but you don't sacrifice your peace for temporary companionship. Because now you know peace is the highest form of love. If it disturbs your spirit, it doesn't belong. If it makes you question your worth, it's not aligned. If it asks you to shrink, it's not real. There's a beauty in how you walk now. You're soft, but not naive. You're kind, but not weak. You're available, but not desperate. You have a heart that's open, but a mind that's wise. You no longer allow people to come and go as they please. You're not a revolving door. You're a gate, and not everyone gets access. You've learned how to love from overflow, not emptiness. You've healed the parts of you that used to settle for less. You've silenced the voices that told you love meant tolerating disrespect. And now, your love is sacred. It's intentional. It's expensive. Not in money, but in value. Because you don't just offer presence, you offer peace. You don't just offer beauty, you offer balance. You don't just offer affection, you offer alignment. You no longer beg for love because you've become what you used to look for. You've become the stability you wanted, the safety you longed for, the kindness you gave away so freely. And now, if someone wants to be close to you, they have to come correct. They have to match your effort, match your frequency, match your growth, because you refuse to carry relationships on your back anymore. You understand that real love doesn't require losing your voice. Real love doesn't drain, it fuels. It doesn't confuse, it clarifies. It doesn't make you question who you are, it reminds you. So you wait, not in bitterness, but in power. You wait for what aligns with your peace. You wait for what matches your energy. You wait, not because you're hard to love, but because you refuse to settle for anything that doesn't love you right. People may call you picky, difficult, or too much. Let them. You're not too much. You're just not for those who are used to too little. You've done the inner work. You've cried the tears. You've walked through the pain. And now you wear your healing like armor. You carry your self-respect like a crown. You're not waiting to be completed. You're not asking anyone to fix what's already whole. You're simply living in your truth, walking in love, and making it clear, if you want to be in my life, come with clarity, come with consistency, come with care. Because anything less than intentional is no longer welcome. You don't beg for love anymore. You embody it, and that is power. There's a strength most people don't talk about, the strength of the woman who stands alone. Not because she has no choice, but because she made a choice. A choice to no longer entertain what drains her. A choice to stop pretending, stop performing, stop pleasing. A choice to sit in silence and finally hear herself think, feel, breathe. That kind of strength is rare, and if that's you, then you already know it's not easy, but it's worth it. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. You know the difference now. You've spent time in both places. You've sat in rooms where you were surrounded by people and still felt invisible. You've loved people who made you feel misunderstood, unseen, unheard. That was loneliness. That was the kind of emptiness that echoed even in crowded spaces. Now you've learned how to be alone without being empty. You've learned how to enjoy your own company. You've learned that solitude isn't punishment, it's power. It's peace. It's healing. The quiet no longer scares you. The silence no longer makes you question your worth. In fact, you've started to crave it. Because in that space, you've discovered the most important relationship you'll ever have. The one with yourself. You've stopped needing noise to feel validated. Stop needing attention to feel beautiful. Stop needing constant companionship to feel whole. That's growth. That's transformation. And most people won't understand it. They'll look at you and think you're cold, distant, detached. But they don't realize that detachment didn't come from bitterness. It came from clarity, from wisdom, from the deep understanding that your peace is priceless and not everyone deserves access to it. You've become the kind of woman who doesn't fear silence because she's made peace with her past. You don't need a crowd to feel valued because you've finally accepted that your worth isn't up for debate. You've had enough experiences to know that not everyone who walks with you is for you. And so now you walk differently. Not with arrogance, but with awareness. You know how to take yourself out, how to enjoy your own presence. You've stopped waiting for people to choose you. You stopped asking for permission to feel good about your life. You look in the mirror and you know this is enough. You are enough. That's the kind of energy that can't be faked. That's the kind of presence that doesn't beg, it radiates. There was a time when silence made you uncomfortable, when you'd rush to fill the void with people, texts, distractions. But the more you healed, the less you needed to fill anything. You realized the void was never the absence of others. It was the absence of you. And once you found yourself again, everything changed. You protect your alone time. You guard your space like it's sacred, because it is. You know what it cost to build that peace. You know how hard it was to climb out of that dark place, to unlearn those habits of self-abandonment, to stop shrinking just to make others comfortable. So now you don't hand out access easily. You don't just let anyone sit at your table. You understand that being alone and whole is better than being with people and broken. People may not get it. They may ask why you're so selective, why you don't put yourself out there more, why you're not chasing relationships like everyone else. But the truth is, you've outgrown the need for chaos dressed up as connection. You've outgrown the desire to be chosen by people who never even saw you. You've stopped auditioning, stopped waiting for someone to finally see your light, because you are the light. And the right people don't need to be convinced, they recognize it. But until then, you're not afraid to stand alone, because you know that in your solitude, you're becoming everything you once searched for. You're not bitter, you're not closed off. You're just focused. Focused on growth, on healing, on becoming. You've turned your time alone into preparation, not punishment. And when love does find you, the real kind, it'll find you whole. It'll find you grounded. It'll find you so full of peace that you won't need it to complete you, only to complement you. But until then, you're not waiting with desperation. You're walking in purpose. You're not sitting idle. You're building, you're becoming. You're evolving into a version of yourself that even your past self wouldn't recognize. This isn't loneliness. It's liberation. You're not empty. You're expanding. You're not lost. You're aligning. You've learned how to be your own home. And in a world that keeps trying to convince women that their value is in being chosen, you've flipped the script. You're not just a woman standing alone. You're a woman who finally understands that standing alone is sometimes the first step to standing in power. There's something different about the way you walk into a room. It's not loud, it's not forced, but it commands attention. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because your presence carries weight. It carries purpose. And that kind of energy doesn't need a spotlight. It is the spotlight. People feel it before you speak. They sense something in you that doesn't need validation or applause. It's something rooted, unshakable, unmoved by trends, unaffected by noise. That's the mark of someone who knows why they're here. When a woman is aligned with her purpose, it radiates from her. It's in her posture, her choices, her silence. It's in how she navigates pain, in how she responds when life tries to break her. It's not perfect, far from it, but she's anchored in something deeper than appearances, deeper than ego. And that kind of woman doesn't chase approval. She chases purpose, because she knows that popularity without purpose is just noise. But purpose echoes long after the moment has passed. You've likely always felt it, this quiet inner knowing that you were made for something more. Even when you couldn't explain it, even when no one around you saw it, you felt different. You thought differently. You didn't fit into the mold, and for a while that hurt. You questioned yourself, wondered why you couldn't just be like them, blend in. You were designed to stand apart. That inner pull you feel, it's not random, it's not confusion, it's your purpose calling. It's the quiet whisper that kept you going when everyone else gave up. It's what made you get back up when life knocked you flat. It's what kept you dreaming even after disappointment tried to suffocate your hope. That's not weakness, that's alignment. Purpose doesn't always come with clarity at first. Sometimes it comes through pressure, through pain, through the breaking. But once it reveals itself, it becomes the compass for your life. It changes how you talk, how you walk, how you love, how you show up. You're no longer interested in impressing people, you're interested in impact. You're no longer obsessed with what's trendy, you're focused on what's timeless. So because you understand that your life has weight, your story matters, your voice matters. You're not here to exist, you're here to move things. And the thing about a woman with purpose, she can't be distracted for long. Yes, life will try, people will try, but she always finds her way back to center, back to truth, back to the vision that lives in her spirit. She's not easy to sway, not because she's stubborn, but because she knows the cost of losing herself. She's been there. She's done that. She's lost time, energy, and identity trying to be what others wanted. But now, she's done performing. She's done proving. She's just being. And that's enough. Your purpose shows up in the way you refuse to settle, in the way you don't accept halfway love, in the way you protect your peace and walk away from anything that disrupts your growth. Some people call it pride, some call it ego, but you know better. It's alignment, it's self-respect, it's knowing that you weren't created to shrink in order to be liked. You were created to grow, to expand, to rise. People might not understand your choices. They might question why you don't move like the rest, why you're not caught up in the same cycles, why you keep your circle small, why your standards are so high. But that's because they don't see what you see. They weren't given your assignment. They weren't called to carry what you carry. You have vision, you have calling, and it doesn't always make sense to those who haven't heard what you've heard in the silence. You carry a sense of direction even when the road is unclear. You trust your steps even when they feel heavy. That's what purpose does. It gives you reason when there seems to be none. It gives you power when you feel weak. It gives you patience when everything around you says quit. And you don't give up, not because you're superhuman, but because you remember. You remember who you are, what you've come through, and where you're going. So when people ask, why do you walk like that? Why do you speak with so much conviction? Why do you seem so sure of yourself? You don't need to explain. Just smile. Because you know what they're really seeing. They're not seeing confidence. They're seeing clarity. They're not seeing arrogance. They're seeing assignment. And it's not something you wear, it's something you are. You carry purpose like fire in your bones. It shows up in how you love, how you lead, how you heal, how you speak. You don't need to convince anyone of your value. Your presence does that for you. Your energy introduces you before you say a word, because when you walk in purpose, you don't just take up space, you transform it. And that is why they feel something they can't explain every time you walk into the room. There's something powerful about a woman who trusts her timing. She's not frantic. She's not rushing. She's not constantly comparing herself to the woman next to her, trying to measure up. No, she's grounded. She moves with patience, with quiet confidence, with the kind of peace that can only come from knowing what's for me will not miss me. That's a rare quality in a world that screams faster, now, more. But a woman who trusts her timing doesn't bend to that pressure. She knows better. She knows that rushing is what creates regret, and comparison is what kills contentment. You've probably felt it before, that pull to catch up, that pressure to make your life look a certain way by a certain age. The world has timelines and it loves to shove them down your throat. Married by 30, kids by 35, career peaked before 40, and if you miss those invisible deadlines, the whispers start. Are you behind? Are you enough? But you're learning to silence those voices. Because deep down, you know you weren't created to follow someone else's clock. You weren't created to chase someone else's story. You have your own lane, your own rhythm, and when you honor that, life flows differently. A woman who trusts her timing doesn't panic when doors close. She doesn't fall apart when something doesn't work out. She might cry, she might grieve, but she doesn't lose herself in disappointment because she knows what walks away wasn't meant to stay. What doesn't bloom wasn't rooted for her. And just because something takes time doesn't mean it's not coming. She doesn't force, she aligns. And that's what makes her powerful, because while others are chasing the moment, she's preparing for the right moment. There's a quiet kind of strength in patience, the kind that doesn't always get applauded but always wins. It's in the way she keeps showing up even when no one's clapping. It's in how she waters her dreams in private, knowing the fruit will come in time. It's in how she resists shortcuts and distractions because she's not after attention, she's after legacy. And legacy takes time. Legacy doesn't come overnight, so she waits, but not passively. Actively, she's not sitting around hoping something magical happens. No, she's becoming. She's learning, healing, growing, becoming the woman who can handle what she's praying for. That's what people don't understand about a woman who trusts her timing. She's not lazy. She's not indifferent. She's intentional. She knows that delay isn't denial, that waiting doesn't mean she's forgotten. It means she's being prepared, because some blessings require preparation. Some doors can only be opened when you're ready to walk through them without losing yourself. And she knows that if she rushes it, she risks ruining it. So she surrenders the timeline, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. She's not shaken by someone else's progress. She can celebrate others without questioning herself because she knows her time is coming. She's not in competition. She's in alignment. Her success doesn't need to look like anyone else's. Her life doesn't need to mirror someone else's highlight reel. She's building something authentic, not something manufactured to please the crowd. And because of that, her peace can't be disturbed by comparison. People look at her and wonder, why isn't she worried? Why doesn't she seem anxious? What they don't realize is that she's been through the panic. She's lived the seasons of doubt, of rushing, of trying to force things, and it drained her. So now she's learned the value of flow. She trusts that what's meant for her won't come through begging. It'll come through alignment, through discipline, through divine timing. And when it comes, she'll be ready, not just externally, but internally. Because while she's been waiting, she's been becoming wiser, stronger, more discerning, more whole. That's what makes her rare. That's what sets her apart. She's not here to race, she's here to rise. And rising takes time. She doesn't need to shout about what's coming. She doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Her life will speak for itself when the time is right. Until then, she stays focused. She keeps her head down and her spirit up. She chooses quality over urgency. She surrounds herself with peace instead of noise. And most importantly, she trusts. Not just in what's coming. So if you've ever felt like your journey is taking too long, like you're falling behind, pause, breathe, look at how far you've come. Look at the strength you've built in the waiting. You are not late. You are not lost. You are in process. You are becoming. And the version of you that's emerging, she's powerful. She's steady. She's a force. Not because she rushed, but because she trusted. And that kind of woman, she doesn't just change her life, she changes the world around her. So let the world rush. Let others chase you. Keep walking, keep trusting, because your time is not just coming, it's being prepared for you. And when it arrives, it'll be worth every second you waited. You want to know if you're one of the chosen ones? Look at your life. Look at how many people tried to dim your light and you still shine. Look at how many times you could have lowered your standards, but you didn't. You've been refined in silence, elevated through pain, and chosen through trials. So walk like it, speak like it, live like it, because the real ones don't have to prove their worth. They embody it.